Specifically, I feel like there was a time in Hollywood where they knew the value of a comedic host. And because in theory, an award show is really just a self-congratulatory. You know what I mean? It's a very small group of people that are the 1% of the 1% that are living the most extraordinary life. They don't hear no, they have unlimited budgets, they get to make art that goes everywhere, they get accolades and money for it. You need a comedic host to let the air out of the room. You know what I mean? Like, you need that. And I felt like there was a time in the business where that was implied and there was a trust factor. So jokes were very important. And the people in charge weren't afraid of jokes. Now they're afraid of jokes because jokes, if taken the wrong way, mean negative backlash. And negative backlash is the thing that no one wants anymore. So they want to sanitize that part out of the equation, but that part of the equation is necessary.
I mean, that's absolutely brilliant. Dude, that's a masterclass. That's the difference between a comic that came up a comic and a comic that went to UCLA. Like, you really, like, that was professorial, but yet also comic.
But it's like, I know it, dude. Like, I started as a stand-up.
I know.
I did not know that my career was going to take this turn where I also write and produce. And, you know, the way that developed when I was an actor on the Jamie Foxx show. Like, we would do a scripted take and then a wild pass where we would be improvising. You know, I would pitch some stuff to fellow actors. And that was like my first indication that, oh, you know, I've got a producer's mind and, you know, I can do something more than just hit the punchline, which is not easy. You know, to master that is very important. But I also knew something about the structure. And so, you know, like all these writing jobs, I used to never talk about my writing jobs because I just felt like they were like things you did while you were waiting to really blow up. You know what I mean? Like, that was the era of what being a comedic writer was. But I also learned a lot about the business as a former performer, still performer, but also in this other, you know, behind the scenes and scripting the comedy and making sure that, you know, moments hit. And so, you know, it's like I'm a technician about it.
I know. So obviously you've come up. You did Jamie Foxx show. You were a writer and a producer.
I was just an actor.
You were just actor.
I was just an actor on that.
Wayne's Brothers.
I was an actor on that. Yeah.
And so, did you on Vibe? Did you
Vibe? I was a writer. Okay. Yeah, I was a writer on Vibe. Writer on the Tonight Show. You know, and those kind of jobs. You know, you're sitting in an office and you got to put it on the page. Like, you really gotta. You know, I feel like the Tonight Show for me, I spent a year at the Tonight Show, and it was Jay's last year. Wow. That year that they were phasing him out for Conan. Wow. So it was almost like being on a reality show.
Saw it, man.
I saw it, dude. And I came in on a show where there were 18 writers on the show. 18 writers. Right? 18.
5-minute monologue.
For a 5-minute monologue.
And maybe a segment after,
yes,
but he didn't do segments all the time like the Great Carsoni or whatever.
Nope. So that monologue was one of the longer monologues on television at the time. It was 27 to 35 jokes, right? And
wasn't he also taking write-ins?
He was taking submissions. So
and
they would
18
pay
writers.
And there were 18 writers.
Amazing writers.
Yes.
Like, you could do it and maybe one other guy and you're fine.
Yes.
You could do it.
Yes.
You could just do it.
And those writers
and Jay could do it.
Those writers were fast. Those writers had been writing for Jay for years.
Brogan. Yeah.
Yes, dude. It was guys that really knew the machine. And I came in when I got hired there. I got hired the year Obama got the nomination.
Okay.
And so an executive was like, we might have our first black president. We should probably have a black writer on the Tonight Show.
You were the only one?
I was the only one. Dude.
Oh, my God.
I was the only one.
They just thought that.
Yes.
Maybe.
Maybe.
We've had multiple black comedian legends go, but
Yes.
Wow, that shows a lot.
And so here, I'll take you to another level,
That
dude.
shows.
So they went to the diversity department at NBC at the time, right?
Didn't seem like they had one.
They did have one, believe it or not, but no black writers in the diversity department. So Jack Cohen said, I know a guy, and recommended me. I was writing and producing on Last Comic Standing at the time, and that production office was across the street from The Tonight Show. I remember I went over for a meeting on my lunch break, and we talked for a minute, and then they wanted to see a joke writing sample, so I had to turn in a page of monologue jokes, and that's how I got hired.
Wow.
Yeah, so I spent a year there, and that job was like getting paid to go to grad school.
Wow.
Because the discipline of when they hire you, they say,
2010?
look, it was, yeah, right around 2010. Yeah, right around then, yes. So the discipline of that job is when they hire you, they go, we want quantity over quality. You know, you can write 5 jokes and think that's a day. They wanted you to just keep pumping them out. And so what it taught me was, A, to get out of your head. I protected myself because I would write a setup for a punchline. And that was the other thing, too, is like I've been doing stand-up at that time about 15 to 18 years. So I knew my voice, but I'm writing for Jay Leno, which is not my voice. So I would do a setup for a joke, and then I would do 3 different punchlines. I would do the punchline that I thought was the funniest. I would do the punchline I thought Jay would do, and then I would do my own one. And that protected me because of those 3, you got to find something that you like.
And do you feel that they were resistant to it? They just wanted the one, or they liked it?
I think that was a survival skill, honestly, because that was not an easy job. It was really one of the most difficult jobs I've had.
See, people don't realize this.
Yeah.
Because there's so many writers.
Yeah.
And
there's so many writers, so many great writers that are already writing in Jay's voice. They were looking at me as, okay, you're the black writer on this show. Give us, which I was like, dude, I wasn't comfortable.
You're a
with
writer.
That. Yes, I'm a writer, first and foremost.
So
like,
crazy.
But I'm just telling you how they're seeing
you. Literally are a writer who does Jeff Dam and feels uncomfortable because you're not the stereotype that you.
Right.
But
right.
That literally is a mind fuck.
But they were looking for. You got to remember, it was Bush Jr. for 2 terms and Bush Sr. for 2 terms. So the tone of that show was defined by those presidents. And here comes the first black president who's super smooth with no flaws. And they're like, well, what's the attack point? The black guy knows.
But they were still riding you.
Oh, of course.
Hard.
Dude, of course. And those writing jobs, here's another level too. You're on 13-week contracts. So they can let you go at the end of 13 weeks. And one of the other writers that befriended me early on was like, hey, don't take it personal if they don't pick up your contract. It's just, it doesn't mean you're not a good writer. It just means you're not working in the system.
I mean, that many writers, the last show, Jay himself is an amazing joke writer.
Absolutely.
And then the submissions.
Yes.
I know comics that he would get to 50.
Yes.
I think he would pay 50 or 75.
It was $50 a joke.
And so.
And people were faxing in jokes.
Yes.
Like, it was extremely competitive because you were just trying to, like, right around the pickup dates, people would be sweating bullets. You know what I mean? And that last year that the show was going away, there were so many people in different facets of that show that were like, I've never had to have another job. I may never work again. So there was this weird reality show pressure to the whole thing.
What I mean, that's just one of your amazing pressure-filled credits. But I mean, it doesn't get hard. It gets easier after that.
Absolutely. And like I said, that's why I feel it was like getting paid to go to grad school. Because when I finished that year, I was like, oh, I'm prepared for anything.
I know. I hate that that you feel like you were targeted for your race. I hate that.
But I think that's the nature of the business, especially during that time. During that time, it's like we would like to think we're as progressive as we are, but this is still, we're still in that space of prove your value.
Do you think Hollywood has opened up the doors a lot more? I would say in the last 6 years for black voices.
Yes and no. I think there's more work to be done.
Of course.
Yes. And I think the variety of the stories, I think the opportunities have lessened recently, but hopefully, like when I was on the Tonight Show, I was like, oh, this is going to open up everything for me. It's like we've got the first black president and, remember that time? That was that time where you could go on stage and go, Obama's in office now, and people would clap. They would clap.
White people.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah, it's like there's.
But then it turned, right? Mm-hmm. Where just as that door was open, it quickly closed. And then what happened in the aftermath is the complete antithesis to what Obama stood for. You know what I mean? Like we overcorrected where it was like, okay, America's going to show its true colors.
Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, so
I'm saying that everything was open for a minute and then it closed and really closed.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we're in this space right now where we're trying to figure out what we want to be moving forward.
I mean, you tell me.
I don't know.
I have a brother who's 67 years old, and he says he's never seen the world this crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And my sister's like, well, it's because you can see everything. But I'm like, is it?
Yeah.
But it is crazy, right? Like my brother lived through Vietnam. He saw Vietnam.
I also feel like people are struggling, and when you're struggling, you're looking for someone to blame.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it's easier to target those emotions and feed those emotions with, this is who you're supposed to be mad at. This is who you're supposed to, this is the cause of your demise.
Yes.
And it's false.
Yes. Wait, I gotta ask you because there's so many things I could ask you about, like the J drama, but I gotta go back first to the award shows because obviously,
okay, yeah,
you know I'm gonna ask you.
You have to. So the Tonight Show led to me, and I'll give you the setup. So after the pandemic, I got a call from Cedric the Entertainer to be his head writer on the Emmys. And
was he hosting?
He was hosting.
Okay.
So for me, I was like, oh, great. I got a shot. I got a shot to show what I can do, the culmination of all the training and other shows. And I over-delivered. And the Emmys were great.
Okay.
And so the Emmys led to writing on the American Music Awards that year, which was also a great experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then that culminated with getting hired to write on the Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
And, this is post-COVID when the Oscars are back at, where they've been forever.
You never wrote on the Oscars before that?
My first time.
Okay.
My first time. And it just so happens to be the Chris Rock, Will Smith Oscars.
Which?
Yes, let's just laugh at that for a minute.
Which is there's so much there.
There's so much there, dude.
Because
there's so much there.
You're a comedian.
I'm a comedian.
You're an actor. Obviously, you're a producer, writer, but let's just go comedian and actor.
I guest starred on The Fresh Prince back in the day.
I'm sure you did.
Our kids are close.
Yes.
I'm friends with both
the
parties
circles
involved.
You know Dwayne. You know Tisha.
I know everybody.
Yes.
They're tied into my life in a way where Will is Uncle Will, and Jada is Aunt Jada, and Chris is Uncle Chris.
Literally.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
You're that close with both.
Yes. Chris Rock did me a huge favor when I was very young. I was in Don't Be a Menace to South Central while drinking your juice in the hood. I played Crazy Legs, which was a funny character.
Yep.
At that time, I was like, cool, I'm about to blow up and act. I don't have to do comedy anymore.
Mm-hmm.
We premiered that movie in New York. Chris Rock took me and my uncle to dinner, and I'm spouting off about, yeah, man, now that I'm in Don't Be a Menace, I don't think I'm going to do stand-up anymore. Chris is quietly listening to me just fucking spout off, and he goes, you should always want to do stand-up. because it's a direct connection with your audience. And if your audience loves you on stage, they will support you in anything and everything you do. So factor that into the Oscars years later.
By the way, I want to get this, but he's 1,000,000,000% correct.
Absolutely.
Everything.
Absolutely.
As great as my life has been, anytime when I fall, stand up is like, here you go.
Yep. We're here for you.
Improv, the factory, the store, like, come down.
Yep.
The worst movie, bombs, everyone hates you. Come do a set.
Yep.
And it makes me loyal. I could cry.
Yep.
I could cry.
Yeah, dude, I was in my early 20s. That was 1996. And I was like, oh, dude, I'm good now. I'm about to do movies.
Yeah.
He had the wherewithal to drop a gem on me and go.
The same year that he made a generational special.
Yep.
And so you're getting advice from Zeus.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And luckily, I wasn't dumb enough to only hear my own nonsense.
Yes. So wait. So have you talked about this on Pod? You probably have, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh,
not
dude.
like this, though.
Okay.
Not like this. Because I can paint. We have such a history. I can paint the layers of everything that happened.
I got
up into that moment,
because it's like I did Enemy of the State with Will. I did a movie. I did Scream 2 with Jada.
Yes.
Yes. I almost got in that movie. Woo.
Yes.
I did Jane Silent Bob with Chris. I'm like, this was just like, it was a artist on artist crime. You could say artist on artist crime, black on black crime. Man, it was so many, and I'm like, it's goat on goat crime.
Yes. Yeah.
And
and it happened on live television.
I know.
In a space that you think is impervious to weirdness.
Yes, because this wasn't a moment that MTV Awards wouldn't even have.
No.
It was crazier than that.
And think about it, dude.
It was crazier than the West Coast East Coast got no love for Dre and Snoop.
Yeah, right.
Like it's crazier
than that. And here's the other thing that people don't realize.
I'm going to shut up.
Here's the other thing that people don't realize. It was as the country was getting back to even gathering. You know what I mean? Like the Oscars before that was at a train station downtown. It was that weird Oscars the year before. So this was the first Oscars where it's like, hey, we're all together.
I remember this. I want you to tell. I'll just tell you this. Just so reference, I was at do these autograph conventions. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And I was with some of the Scream cast and my co-star Skeet Ulrich. We had a BJ's Brew House.
Yes.
And he says, my daughter just texted me that Will Smith slapped Chris Rock. And I'm like, what? I go, was it a skit? And he goes, no. And he goes, pass the brisket, macaroni, and cheese. And that's how I heard about it.
Wow.
All right,
I'm gonna tell you
Pull that
my
microphone
situation.
Down.
I'm gonna tell you my situation. My situation is it's absurd.
Okay.
We did a Godfather tribute on the Oscars that year. And so I'm in this tiny room behind the stage with Francis Ford Coppola, Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, John Travolta sitting on the couch next to Uma Thurman.
A room.
And that was the last thing I was responsible for on the show. You know what I mean? So I had,
that was your
I was in charge
segment?
of that. Yes,
Okay.
I was in charge of that as a writer.
Okay.
Scripting that out, and so that's where I saw that moment. And so I'm in this room where I'm like, oh my God, this is the most Hollywood experience of my lifetime. I'm wearing a tuxedo. I'm with these people that are the greatest of the greats. And we're all watching this monitor that, because we're there, there's no delay. There's no beep. Like, so the rage that Will comes at the situation with is unfiltered. It was so shocking. I couldn't make a sound as I was watching it happen. Like it went to the very back part of my brain and I couldn't express anything other than what's happening. Like I spent 2.5 months working on this production and it's all being undone in this one moment.
So, first off, you were in shock. What were those Pantheon stars' reaction?
They were shocked too. We were all shocked. Like that was the weirdest thing. For as tiny as this room was, they just didn't know. No one knew what was going on. Like you said, people thought, is this a bit? But then when Will started, the rapper that doesn't cuss started cussing. You're like, what is happening? What is happening? So it was like, I almost say it's like being a party planner and you've spent months building this party and then the invited guest pulls down his pants and just shits on the cake.
Dude, that's so true, bro.
You're like, wait a minute.
Bro, so what?
So then,
what?
dude,
okay, go for
there's nothing but confusion, right? And at that point, after that happens, my first thought is like, okay, this is so far above my pay grade. It snapped me into dad mode, right? I brought my daughter. And so my daughter was in the audience. And I had texted her right before that, oh, hey, once I finish the Godfather thing, I'll come up and see you. Because I hadn't seen her all night because I was working. Like, it's a long show. It's a 3-hour show. This all happened in the last half hour as it escalates to the bigger awards. So when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm in dad mode. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if the show was going to end at that moment. I didn't know if we had to mass exit the building. Like, it was that shocking. So I go up to where my daughter is. I see her for the first time. I'm like, oh, you look beautiful. And she goes, Dad, what just happened? I said, I have no idea. So then I'm thinking, if we have to get out of the building, let me at least have her close.
It was like a shooter.
Dude.
It was like a shooter, bro.
I'm being dead up right now, dude. Like, this is my thought process. I'm going into like, okay, how can we evacuate the building mode? So I take her downstairs. She runs into a friend of hers. I was like, let me go back and see if there's anything that I need to do, even though I knew this was like something else. So, they decide to continue on with the show. Amy Schumer does that great joke where she comes out and she goes, hey, did I miss anything? Did anything weird? Which was hilarious.
Yes.
It was hilarious and perfect and right on. And just like I said earlier, it's a comedic host letting the air out of the room.
Mm-hmm.
Letting and commenting on the thing that we're all confused about and we can't quite process. So then there's only a couple more awards after that, right?
One being his best actor.
Yes, which I was like, okay. So that happens. They do best, and then the show ends, right? And I just remember seeing my name on the credits, right? Like, oh no, I'm now
linked to this.
I'm linked to this, right? And the first thing people are going to think is, well, of course you had something to do with that.
No, you got paranoid. You thought it was going to be a race car.
Yes, I knew. So
that's fucked up.
So then, once the Oscars ends, you go to the first party, which is upstairs.
Yes,
right?
The
governor's ball.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone is leaving the auditorium and going up the escalators. Like, people don't realize the Oscars are at a mall. Right?
I love that you say that.
They're at a mall, dude.
They are. It's right above it is a Stone Cold Creamery.
Yes. So we're taking the escalator up, right? And I'm holding my daughter's train of her dress, and everyone is having the same conversation at the same time. Like, what was that? What just happened? Was that real? Why did he slap him? Why was the Fresh Prince cussing? Like, everyone's having the same conversation and confusion, and then you just go to a party.
So
But
Hollywood.
dude, the party was tainted because people were like, what was that?
Yeah.
And so then, the hosts that year were Wanda Sykes, Amy Schumer, and Regina Hall.
Three, yeah.
Yes. And so I run into Wanda and we hug each other like we're now like
Trauma bonded.
And we have a moment about that. And we're all just confused, dude. We're all just confused. And then here's the other thing. When you write on the Oscars, like they told us beforehand, they said you're probably going to get approached by media outlets wanting your commentary. They're going to see that you were a writer, and it's best to just not say anything. That's a normal Oscars.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the night of and the day after the slap.
Wow.
And it's everywhere. So I get a call the next day from the Washington Post, and a guy goes, hey, I heard you wrote on the Oscars. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, is there anything you want to say? I said, absolutely not. And so then he goes, hey, just between you and me, this is off the record. I was like, yeah, sure it is.
Yeah,
sure it is. So then, I don't know if you remember this, but those first couple days afterwards, the public opinion was, well, he was just sticking up for his wife.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So it was very anti-Chris. And
not in our community.
Not in the comedy community.
Comedy community, I mean.
Yeah, not in the comedy community, but I'm just saying overall.
Yeah.
It was, oh, well, he was sticking up for his wife. So that was the general thought process. And then by Wednesday or Thursday, it shifted to, wait a minute, we just witnessed an assault.
100%.
And, it's like you said, it's goat on goat crime. And we're being forced to now make a choice as to which goat we're with. And then it takes on this weird thing where, even just going to the barbershop, everyone's talking about it at the barbershop. Everyone's talking about it everywhere. And I've got to now listen to everyone's low rent take on the Oscars.
And do they know how you were literally in?
Dude, I couldn't say anything. So it was like I was walking around like a ghost, and this thing was like haunting me. So I had, like, honestly, between you and I was depressed and shell-shocked for at least 3 or 4 months afterwards.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Because you were disappointed that Will did it. Also,
you can't control what anyone else does. And I don't walk in Will's shoes, so I can't judge him from that standpoint. But the thing that was most hurtful to somebody that was a creative was that's a lot of pressure to write on that show. And you want to over deliver. You want to suspend, you want to take people away. What entertainment is, you want it to live in that space. So you want people to feel good. Like you want people to believe in Hollywood, like all that stuff. The reason we get into this is to hopefully have a shot to create something that's long-lasting, memorable, that uplifts people's spirits. Like that's the essence of what comedy is.
Legacy,
yeah.
I say.
And it's so difficult to get in these positions.
You were in, that is our Super Bowl.
Absolutely.
And
absolutely.
And you were in Mr. Kraft's suite.
Absolutely.
But with like like Jim Brown, from Legacies on. You were insane.
And I got to tell you, dude, I haven't publicly talked about this in this way. It's taken me 2 years to be able to just voice what my experience was.
Well, I appreciate it.
Of course, dude. Of course.
And I can only, because you were in the rarest of air. I mean, listen, that's why I got questions. If whatever you're not comfortable with, don't tell me, obviously. But you're in the rarest of air, not only a witness, but a part of the creative. Plus, you're so close with these two guys.
Sure.
I mean, how, to me, there's a lot of speculation, obviously, of stuff. I just think, listen, no one knows the pressure of what it's like to be Will. He is a rare of, if it's Humphrey Bogart on a mural in Marilyn Monroe, Will's right there.
Absolutely.
Will is
absolutely
35 years in the game. Plus, I knew him from Philly, meaning we had a Sound of Upper Darby was us where they sold records and tapes and big boom boxes. In '86, Parents Don't Understand was a number one hit on Power 99. So almost 40 years, and Will was the local, like he just turned 18, and everyone knew him in Philly.
Yeah.
So when he got Fresh Prince, he was this new guy, but everyone knew him.
Yeah.
So almost 40 years without really any blemishes.
No.
As relevant as.
And Will's a guy that if he sees talent in you, he's going to give you an opportunity. Like, I wrote for Will on the Kids' Choice Awards, and it was, the two writers were myself and the creator of Blackish, Kenya Barris. Wow. So we were Will's writer on the Kids' Choice Awards.
Wow.
So I have a lot of history with Will. Will has done amazing things. I think he's a great person. I've seen what it takes to be a star of that magnitude, and it would break almost anyone. So the fact that, you know, like I said, that's why I also can't judge someone that has had to fill those shoes for that time. I was just disappointed because that's such rarefied air, and that should have been his crowning moment. Like, that should have been his Sidney Poitier moment.
1,000%. It's like let comment on that. Like, Will's also a trailblazer. First of all, his rap bumps. I don't care if it's like fun escapism. It's bump. I'm parent DJ Jazzy Jeff and him.
Yeah.
Summertime.
Yeah.
I dare you not to bump it. Like,
yes, of course. It's timeless. It's a timeless classic.
Bumps.
Yes.
And he was the first rapper to win many awards, including a Grammy, including an MTV award. So he won everything.
Yes.
And like you said,
and he's been number one on the call sheet for 40 years.
40 years playing a black legend, Richard
Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, he played Muhammad Ali, which also he's nominated for, but he also played Richard Serena Williams.
Yeah.
Richard Williams.
Yeah.
And then he wins, obviously, and is tainted. So there's so much I can say, and obviously you can say more, but I got fucked up from it, and I'm not you, because I'm like also in rare air because I get to work with these guys. I'm in the same world.
Yes.
Obviously not them, but you know, listen, we've been on the same sets, and times you end up going to the same parties. It's a small business.
Sure, absolutely.
And I just felt, I just said, I just thought, Will, I mean, and I love you, and if you watch this, I just can't, to Chris. Chris is literally, I could cry. The antithesis, Chris is why Chris does comedy is for that. Literally, he was probably bullied. And he literally got bullied for being a defense mechanism.
You know what that moment was?
And it was a throwaway.
Only stand-ups will really understand this. You know what that moment was? That moment was second show Friday at every little club in America, where you've got the drunk heckler in the front row, and you're just trying to get through your act so you can go back to your hotel room and hopefully have better shows on Saturday. So that moment, to me, like when I saw that happen, my first reaction was, oh no, the trickle down in the clubs is going to be tragic.
In terms of what it will do?
It will empower people to feel like if they disagree with something, they don't understand something, or they have an issue with something, you can walk up on stage and forcibly do something about it.
I want to add to that, but I want to go back to it because it's just that is happening, by the way.
Of course it is.
So where do you stand on it? What was Will's take? What's Chris's take? Because it was a throwaway joke.
Yes, sure.
Baby, and you don't have to say, but like, have you talked to Will? Have you talked to?
No, like I said, I don't know if that's my place. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't had an interaction with him since that time. Like, in some ways, I sort of had to chalk up this experience as you were here for a reason. You did your job. You did the best that you could do with what you were given. This moment had nothing to do with you. And maybe the takeaway is there's only so much you can control in this business. And you can put all your eggs into trying to make something great. But at some point, you got to just let it go.
Have you talked to Chris?
No, I haven't talked to Chris.
So I feel that
I did see the material that he worked out before he shot the special. I watched him work stuff out, but I sort of felt like that was such a raw and vulnerable moment for him. To talk about it is just forcing him to relive it. And I think as a friend, he's probably having to relive that in so many different ways. Why add that to the mix? So it's, and that sort of speaks to the respect that I have for him. Like, give that man his space.
I love it. I mean, like I said, there's Will's on the Pantheon and Chris is on the Pantheon.
Yes. And both of them mean so much to me as somebody that, like, I feel like, yeah, I've been doing this for a while, but I'm still trying to break it all wide open. So when you see where they are, that gives you the extra gas to do more and be more and try and make, more of an impact in this business.
Just from my opinion, and I love Will and I love Chris, but Will, there's a lot of reasons why he did it. I just don't agree with it.
Sure.
I do not agree with it at all. It was a joke. It was a throwaway joke. But I also understand that you can break. I've broken on my level.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? So I can't imagine what's like.
Yeah, I think that's the bigger point is,
but it's just
we're all, no matter where you are in society, we're all human.
Yeah,
and
100%.
Coming off the pandemic, that was a very isolating time. That I think that broke a lot of people, and it made a lot of people very raw. Because it was something that we had never experienced, and so. You do have to give people grace. Like I said, I try not to judge that part of it. I don't agree with what happened that night. I wish it didn't happen because I would have rather just had a regular Oscars. Like, I do a joke on stage where I go, that should have been the greatest night of my life. Like, I had already pre-planned how appropriate drunk I was going to get and
so funny.
what British supporting actress I was going to flirt with. I had it all planned out, and once the slap happened, it was a wrap, dude.
No, in and out on the 101 in Woodland Hills.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
But the whole thing is that then he got the award.
Yes.
And then Hollywood.
Yeah. But
held no accountability.
Dude, I love you, Will. People say that, but I'm not going to judge.
You can judge Lil.
Dude, it's tough, though.
But they probably had PTSD. Everyone was tripping.
And people were just like, you're at a show, dude. You've got your best clothes on. Yeah. You're on camera. It's the Oscars. Yeah. It's live. Like, dude, this has never happened before.
Top 5 moment, top 3 up there with John Wayne or Marlon Brando's Native Americans.
Yes, right.
It's up there.
And it may have surpassed that because of who was involved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that was the weird thing, too, is like, dude, I wanted to just crawl up in a ball and just die. And people were like, you made the Oscars lit again. It's like, well, that's not what I was going for.
So let me ask you this. now let's go one layer deeper in the onion. So I take an Uber the next day, and my driver recognizes me, and we're talking, and he starts talking about the incident.
Of course.
And he's black.
Yes.
And he says, that's massive disrespect. He goes, you do that in the hood? He didn't punch him. He said he slapped him. And he said, that shit was womanly. And he said, He said, it's on and popping. I'm standing on business. You don't get slapped. Like
he said, I'm standing on business?
Yes, he said the slap was more disrespectful. And I got what he was saying than a punch, if that makes sense.
A punch, like you could body shot somebody. Yeah. That's a different message than a slap. Yeah. A slap is watch your tone.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like a slap is like watch your tone.
I felt awkward. Like and I love comics. We all came out. And I mean, but like you said, you're in the most precarious of positions, but you also can understand everything because you've been on it.
Dude, I'm also a writer on the Oscars. Like, I've built this thing for everyone to win.
Yeah, I know.
You know what I mean? So there's that side of it where it's like, you messed it up for all of us.
Do you think it fucked it up now?
I haven't wrote on an Oscar since.
Are you saying what I think you're saying?
No, I'm just saying that once something like that happens, you know, the tone of the game is to move away from it. So they ended up that following year, they hired a lot of producers that produced the Tony Awards. So they went in a totally different direction.
Yeah.
And that's what happens in the business. Like, there's like, okay, it's like the coach getting fired because the team that he coached didn't win at all. Listen, it's the coach's fault. Yeah, it's the writer's fault. If
a movie bombs, they want to they run from the stink or the controversy, even though that was the most relevant Oscars. In years.
Of course. But that's not the way I want to be relevant. Like, there was I felt like that year there were so many things people should have been talking about. Like there were so many triumphs on that show that were enough. Like, I didn't think I wish it didn't happen. You know, and I for various reasons. Like, you know, you don't want to see your idol get slapped, and you don't want somebody you respect to slap your idol. You know what I mean? Like, everything about it. Like, I felt like the world needed a win in that moment, and we just got mind fucked.
Yeah,
you know,
because that literally was just coming off of it. Like, I felt like I was starting to go out. I had just had COVID. And it was like early 2022, and it was like, let's all dip our toes back in. Wow, dude. Yeah. It's just so crazy. You were right there in that room.
I was there, dude. I was there. And that night, I'll tell you this is, they put you up there because the streets are blocked off and everything, so you can really go to the party and get loose if you want to.
Get the Renaissance.
And so, yes. And so I'm staying there, and that night, it's just wheels on a loop in my brain the entire night. And, what he said, take my wife's name, and it's blaring in my brain over and over and over again. And then I get up in the morning, I'm like, I got to get out of here, right? And so I check out first thing in the morning, and I drive back to my apartment. And as I'm watching the TV, it's all over the morning shows. Like, it's everywhere, dude. Yeah. You can't get away from it. And I remember that first week, Saturday Night Live does a sketch about it. And so the thing that you are instrumental in helping create is now taking this life force of its own. I remember on Twitter, somebody had screenshot the credits of the writers, and they had a blue check. I don't know who they were, but they said, I can confirm that Chris Rock did not write that joke. It was written by them. So it was like, you were under attack in a way where it was like, well, this isn't cool at all, because I had nothing to do with this moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like those are two friends of mine that I want to win because then we all win.
Yeah, and really friends. Like, people need to understand, like,
Yes,
you really
yes.
are friends.
Yes.